The only thing I can think of is, and there is, I think, this myth in Greece that if we only had a better government in place that could negotiate tougher with the IMF or the Europeans, that things would have been better. And having watched not only the Greek crisis, but Ireland, Portugal, Cyprus, Spain, this is a myth. This is a complete myth. I mean, I remember, for instance, Spain in particular. I mean, Spain thought it was Spain. We're a big country. You know, Brussels can't tell us what to do. The Germans can't tell us what to do. And I remember getting a call from our Madrid bureau chief saying, what's going on there in Brussels? You know, I've talked to the Spanish government. They say, you know, they're dictating to us, and isn't this horrible? You know, but and we're Spain. And I was like, welcome to the Eurozone. This is how it works now. Even Spain is not going to be able to change the nature of your program. It just doesn't work. And I think Venizelos fell for this. I think he thought that you know, Papa Constantino, he's weak. I'll go in and I'll change the second program. He learned very quickly he couldn't do it. I think Samaras fell for that, right? His whole campaign in 2012 was, I'm going to rip the memorandum, and almost overnight, he became the biggest advocate for the referendum. He learned that there's no fighting City Hall. And I think Tsipras had the same belief, that if I'm just strong and I show those Europeans, I got the Greek people behind me, I can change the nature of this. Now, Venizelos figured it out basically in 24 hours. Samaras figured it out in a week or two. I think Tsipras took 6 months. And I just think it took him too long to realize that just because you have the Greek people behind you is not enough in the modern Eurozone. And it's not something I necessarily advocate. I don't think it's fair, and I certainly don't think it's democratic. But in the Eurozone today, you don't control your budgets anymore.
There's this big question that we keep discussing about. Why was Greece so different than Ireland, Portugal, or even Cyprus? I mean, why nobody ever spoke about a possible Irish exit from the euro or Portuguese exit from the... Why did we speak about Brexit?
Well, I think there are two issues. One, I think we can't underestimate the size of the problem in Greece was so much bigger. The amount of fiscal adjustment that happened here, and this is why I find you know, some of the arguments by the Irish and the Portuguese now to be a little bit disingenuous. They had to do tough things. No way in the size of what the Greeks have had to do. So the size and the length of it also has been much more difficult. So the real thing to me, to be honest with you, is, and what I've come to understand about the markets, is you can do all the measures you want, but until this ephemeral thing called confidence appears, things don't turn around. How do you regain confidence? It is not something you can put on a spreadsheet. It is not something you can measure. It's something that the markets feel. And I really do believe that the infighting here in Athens, but also, let's not forget, the Germans. If you are an investor in a bond or looking to invest in Greece, and every 5 months Wolfgang Schäuble is saying, well, maybe Brexit. Well, why would I invest in Greece? So I think both the infighting in the Greek political system, but also Schäuble's, let's be honest, determination to push Greece out has had a real damaging effect. And again, that's why I think that sometimes the debate in this country is a little bit misguided. You know, we blame Papandreou for signing the first memorandum. Oh, we blame Samaras for signing the second memorandum. Well, you know what? The reason this program is different from the Irish program is because the Germans have been saying publicly for 6 years, maybe Greece should leave. And that undermines this ephemeral confidence that is so important to turning a country around. And I think they hold a huge burden of responsibility in the mess that was created here. The difference, I think, in Greece was I'll be perfectly blunt, the nastiness of the political system. If you look at what happened in Portugal and Ireland, and it was a cross-party support. There was, yes, it was tough. Yes, there was public anger. But because the two big parties had the same message, which is, this is difficult, but it's something we have to do, the people eventually went along with it. And I think the nastiness and the personal infighting that happened in the Greek political structure over the course of that 2 years really undermined any effort that the government, any attempt that the government had to carry the people along with them. But, you know, what I think you have is a period in 2014 where, dare I say it, things looked like they were getting better, but the people didn't feel it yet, and they were angry, and Samaras decided, I'm going to become populist, I'm going to appoint sort of right-wing ministers, and I'm going to basically stop implementing the program because I was afraid after the European elections that I wasn't going to win anymore. And so you had basically two populist leaders fighting with each other. And I think from that moment until now, well, that moment until, let's say, mid-2015, things just went off the rails. And again, I think Tsipras is to blame for part of it, but I think Samaras is to blame for part of it as well.
And what about the referendum? I mean, what was the motivation behind the referendum, and why overnight they took the no vote and turned it into practically a yes vote?
Again, I've talked to multiple people who were involved in this decision. You know, I talked to 3 people, I get 6 answers. I don't think there are any, I think many people had many motivations. The most convincing argument I have heard is that Tsipras realized, as I said, very late in the game, that he was going to lose. That he was either accept a new memorandum that was pretty much the same as the old memorandum, or exit. Well, how do I turn this around? And how I turn this around is I go to the people and I say yes or no, and they say yes. And then I say, well, I disagree with this program, but the people have spoken. They want to stay in the euro. I'm going to accept it. And I remember in the week after his announcement, talking to many Greek officials who said, don't worry, everyone's going to vote nay, right? We're going to advocate for Oshi, but it's going to be nay. And the polls for a while looked like it was going to be yes. And I think he was surprised at how successful he was.